How's it going, everybody? This is Just in Our Minds, and we're here with Zeff. He specializes in permaculture, kids immersion camps in Hawaii, and family constellation. So we'll get into all that and more today. I met him yesterday at an awesome post-retreat ceremony, I guess we could call it. All right, and he is also an author. His new book is Being with Meing.
Being and Meing.
Being and Meing. All right, brother. So how's your day going so far, Zeff?
It's been great. I feel like I've been immersed in nature for the last 3 weeks now across the States, and I'm in the middle of a tour around the Western U.S., doing family constellations gatherings, weekend immersions, and things like that. So it's been lovely to see some really incredible biodiversity. Yeah.
That's amazing, dude. It's honestly, that was a powerful experience yesterday. I really loved, honestly, every aspect of it. Just honestly how it could get and be able to shred layers and open up and help people become vulnerable. What got you started on your path? Like, where did this start? Where did your love for nature? What was your calling to this path? And like, where's your origin? Where's the beginning of this start for you?
I mean, if we're really being honest, it's childhood. You know, in a lot of ways, growing up in Florida, nature was my refuge, and through the process of having some really challenging family dynamics, once I started traveling and going around the world, New Zealand, Australia, South America, traveling across the States, I started to realize that as I connected more with myself and had that space, there's a lot of stuff to work out, and a lot of patterns that I noticed I brought into each place that I went, and these recurring themes. It's like, why is this here? What's this about? And so it started a curiosity, and I had some challenging experiences when I was 15 that really changed my life, and set me on a path of curiosity and really getting interested in what's going on in this life and how I can meaningfully engage with life. Yeah, so I think that was kind of the start, and met some incredible teachers along the way, who introduced me to things that I wouldn't have otherwise sought out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think those are maybe it's hard to realize in the moment, but like having certain coaches that kind of help guide you, and not only guide you, kind of help form the type of individual or type of coach, the type of mentor that you were destined to be, or you wanted to create or cultivate.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of a collaboration between the experiences I had as a child and the certain qualities that brought about. And like you said, these teachers that have come in, or these role models, or people that I met on the street, that really sparked something that turned my trajectory total 180.
Yeah, whether you're getting forced like into alignment or you are finding alignment, like with Louis earlier, we were talking about that too. And sometimes you get forced into place. It's more of like a energetic, spiritual, chiropractic adjustment from the universe.
Yeah. I mean, I could share a deep dive on that.
Whatever
personal
you want, brother.
Story. Let's go. Fairly intense, but we'll go there. So at 15, I was suicidal and was, long story short, just ready to go. I remember thinking, wow, if this is what life is for, I don't want to live it. And so I planned. It was the beginning of the week. I planned on Friday, that's the end. Wednesday comes, and long story short, I found out that my dad committed suicide. It had happened 8 years prior, but I found out that day, 2 days before I had planned to do it. And I had a choice. Am I going to follow in his footsteps? Am I going to do the same thing that he did? And for me at the time, I was so angry. I was so angry about that, and really sad, ultimately, that I said, I'm not going to do what he did. And what came of that is that I woke up on the Saturday morning that I didn't think I would wake up. And I walked outside, and I remember saying, if I'm going to be here, there has to be something good. There's got to be one thing. Like, my cup was full with all of the shit. And so I walked outside and I started to find things that were good. And about a week into that, I saw this tree. And that tree, I remembered from when we first moved into this little apartment. And something ignited inside of me because I realized, oh my God, that tree is beautiful. And that tree has been here this whole time. The whole time that I was in the misery, the whole time I was all wrapped up in the negativity and didn't want to be here, that tree and many other things were here this whole time. The beauty was always here. The amazingness of life was here at the same time. And at 15, I had this moment where I sat there and I reckoned with my own ignorance. And I saw my capacity to choose. What am I going to focus on? What am I going to pay attention to? All of this or all of that? Or maybe a little bit of both. And that sparked something so deep in me that it reignited my curiosity. It made me say, well, what else is going on in this world? If I've been missing all of the beauty and I thought that life wasn't worth living, what else is going on here? What else might I be missing? And that I'm still riding that momentum here, 18 years later.
That's great, man. Talking about a universal surfboard, right? You know, you're just catching the wave and just been paddling back in and out since then.
That's a long break.
Yeah, it's a long break, man. That's a lot of leg strength. So that was you said around 15.
Yeah.
What were some of the other steps moving towards? I'm not even sure how old you are.
I'm 32 right
32.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So in between 15 and 32, what are some of the most pivotal moments that help create and help you create and hold space the way you do now?
Definitely starting to hold space through yoga. I would say that yoga really helped bring me back to my body. And I feel like that in a lot of ways in the Western world, that's what yoga has, by and large, played a pivotal role in, is bringing us back to our body, bringing us back to feeling a sense of safety, even if we don't put those words on it, being really embodying ourselves again. And then I started teaching yoga at a retreat space in Ecuador where they're doing plant medicine ceremonies. Now, I lived there for 2 years and participated in ceremony and sat a lot in the integration circles. That changed my life. That really set in motion some deep healing. It was held in a really incredibly authentic way and with a lot of integrity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I feel like the levels of consciousness that you can elevate to with ceremony is huge, and that apparently for most people, it's only when you're called to it. What are some of the things, if you want to share with your trials and tribulations through some of your psychedelic journeys?
Yeah. I can say for sure, the first book that I wrote, it's called Cosmic Journeys of the Alashinawasi. And that book took me 5 years to write after those 2 years with the shamans. And that was a journey of integration for me. And what was happening along that time was reckoning with, and I think this is really important in our time right now, considering the use of plant medicine, I had to reckon with the fact that I'm still in this human body. I'm still in this human experience. I have an ego. I have emotions. I have, a personality and all of these things that we'd love to transcend through these psychedelic experiences. And coming back to me as a human, as a person, as Zeff, there were enormous trials and tribulations. It's one thing to blast out into a cosmic realm and feel the oneness. And I think it's an important experience. It has been for me. and then to come back in and have a conversation that's uncomfortable with someone who doesn't want to hear what I have to say. How do I navigate that? That's part of the oneness.
Yeah, 100%. It is. And a very uncomfortable one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'd say a lot of the trials and tribulations were reckoning with what ultimately is discussed in being and meing, which is holding the beingness, the oneness, that egoless self and our egoic individual personality simultaneously as a sideless coin, as one and the same thing. And the way that I have, or where I've arrived with that, is this sentiment of, rather than trying to chase oneness through the individuality, which I feel is common and was common in my life, really getting clear and resting into our essence and then bringing that through our individuality. It's a totally different movement. Rather than trying to find it through the ego or through our individuality or through our mind, coming back to what is beneath the mind and how can I come from that place and let that inform the mind. And for me, that's been a huge stepping stone to feeling more grounded and more peaceful in my own life.
Yeah, knowing it's all one thing inside of you, but also knowing there's a lot more that could be surrounding it, right? And that's huge.
Yeah.
We were last podcast we were talking about internal and external environments, and like how they can be toxic or they could be great, and like it's your job to cultivate them. Your grass is green where you water it. And I think that it seems like you're doing a great job. That was something I was super impressed with was not only the way you speak, but how you speak and how you speak from your heart. Because you can go into some ceremonies in different areas and different things. And I think people can understand and grasp words, but they don't understand or grasp the concept behind the words and the actual presence and essence behind what they're actually communicating. And that's something I really appreciated about you as an individual and everything you're creating.
Thank you. Yeah, my NLP teacher, Sonny Jackson, he says, words are boats, and boats carry cargo, right? And so we can pay attention to the boat, or we can tune into what is that boat carrying? What's the actual meaning or intention behind the words? And yeah, I agree. A lot of times we get lost in the word soup, and we don't pay attention to what the words are trying to carry or trying to transmit.
Yeah, you try to make sure that boat has that little, or it's like the glass bottle you throw on the ocean, and you have an intention for it to land for a certain individual. And I can see you're tactically navigating your words for individuals or for the whole. And I think that spiritual, verbal alchemy and that chess game was super, not just impressive, but it was just like a art to watch in real life. It was like a verbal painting that was happening for everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a lot of what comes through neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, the way that our words reflect our neurology and the way that our neurology is influenced by our words. So there's a big difference between you hurt me and I feel hurt. Enormous difference, right? And this can be as simple as that. Yeah, just really tuning into what is it that we're communicating.
Exactly. Like intention behind the words, which is huge. I mean, I could work way more on that, learning how, but that's something that's like, it's such a underutilized skill. Now, did you learn about this stuff from Tony Robbins, or was it somewhere, like, where did you start picking up, is NLP you said?
Yeah. So the same teacher who taught me family constellations, he also calls it ancestral healing.
Ancestral healing.
Yeah, and he has the Ancestral Healing Institute on Kauai. He weaves, and we now weave NLP with family constellations. Family constellations kind of being the yin element of this sort of divination practice of exploration, NLP being the masculine outcome-based direct processes for a specific intention.
Okay.
And bringing those two together is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And so, that came through studying and training with Sunny. Yeah.
So how did you get to Sunny? Like what took you out to Hawaii?
Yeah, I was with a friend. I was already living on Kauai. I was working on a permaculture farm, and a friend said, "Hey, I'm going to this thing. We're going to all represent ancestors and talk about deep things and unwind our patterning." And I said, "Wow, it sounds like some spiritual hooty-dooty stuff."
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And a few weeks later, I ended up going on the way back from the beach, and it just blew my mind. You know, I was there just witnessing. I wasn't even participating, and just crying because here were these people representing a family dynamic that had unfolded for this young woman. And somehow it reflected so deeply experiences that I'd had in my family. And I received so much from that. And I said, wow, this is amazing. This is a really amazing practice. Started going every week for about a year before I decided to take a training.
That's amazing. I think that's the best way. Then you learn on both sides. You really understand how to be the listener. And then, of course, then that's when you start being the teacher.
Yeah.
So you're forever the student. But yeah, I think that's a smart way to go about things too, because then you really, once again, we go back to the environment. And then are you still in Hawaii? Or you said you're traveling around. Are you going to be headed back there?
Yeah. So we do trainings every year, and I run a kids nature immersion program there on Kauai. I've also done on Big Island, and we're working on weaving both kids and parents into these family summer camps and exploring that space. So I do a lot of that in Hawaii for sure, and work on a lot of permaculture projects and farms and food forests out there. Yeah. So it's definitely one of the home bases, but I've been traveling.
It's a good home base to have.
It's so incredible, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were explaining when you were, before you set on this journey for 2024, and you were talking about it in group last night, that you're planning to come to the States and travel around. Could you want to like reiterate and get deeper into how that all came about?
Yeah. I mean, pretty simple, but I think it speaks to what happens when we pick up on something that wants to happen, right? So I was like, I was talking to a friend and I said, how cool would it be if I just traveled around the Western US and did family constellations in amazing places with amazing people? He said, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I feel like you're ready for that. I said, yeah. I went to a meeting an hour later, and there was a woman there talking about what she does. And she said, yeah, my company just created this big guide, like 30-page guide of all of the transformational events in the Western US for 2024. And I said, well, that would be helpful. And I just blasted a bunch of emails out and ended up doing like 9 events in 9 weeks last year, and just started to spread it. And most of those spaces, there had never been a family constellation done. A lot of festivals. Now I've done family constellations in churches and for pastors, and working on vulnerable populations, marginalized populations, and just asking the question now, where are the spaces that this work can be the most impactful? Where are the patterns that we've adopted in our childhood expressing themselves perhaps the most extremely? And how can this be most of service to people? Personally, I'll take a little tangent here. Personally, I feel that family constellations in the next 5 to 10 years will fill a similar role that yoga has filled for the Western world. Like we were saying before, yoga has brought us back into our bodies. I feel that family constellations will bring us back into our emotional and mental and familial bodies, if you will, and allowing us to return to those places in a safe way, realizing that all of our behaviors and all of our patterning, all of those things have a positive intention. It's one of the presuppositions behind NLP. Every behavior has a positive intention. And when we can focus on that positive intention, when we get clear on that, if it's safety, protection, belonging, connection, love, a sense of sovereignty within ourselves, when I can realize what I'm actually trying to get through some behavior, that's the key to the door to shift the pattern, shift the behavior while still honoring that positive intention. And I feel that work is, I've watched it with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, probably thousands of people. It's absolutely transformational.
I love it. I'm definitely going to look more into it, or I'm going to have to follow you out to Hawaii or something. The whole permaculture thing too is like, what got you into that in general too?
Wow.
Not to hop around, but like, we'll make sure we talk about each and every one of these because I think all of it's interesting.
Yeah. Permaculture. So for me, it started getting out into nature. I had converted a van and gone across the states for like 8 months and just got lost in the wilderness, did these long 5-6 day hikes by myself and really encountered the heart of nature and had some pretty monumental experiences and rites of passage. That laid the foundation. Then I was living in South America and I started working with people who were growing bamboo and growing other foods. And there's this local fresh fruit. And I'm going, wow, this is amazing. I feel like, there was a moment when I realized that apples grow on trees and that bananas grow from this like incredible grass, this giant blade of grass that looks like a tree.
Thing that's like this big usually, right? They're especially in like Hawaii and stuff, they're smaller. That was something that blew my mind. The seeds are bigger.
Totally. And so just being kind of mystified by nature initially and not understanding nature and going, this seems like a good thing to understand, this whole life that's going on around us. I would like to get to know it more. And moving out to Hawaii, my partner at the time really inspired me to take a permaculture design course and start to understand how to grow food and the relationships between different elements of life. And I feel that's so hugely reflective of the ways that people communicate and interact and how we interact with the environment.
And having strategic plans, and I'm guessing growing in certain areas, certain times of the year, just all that plays in. Because my parents are starting an A&P farm. It's like agricultural management practices. Same thing. You have certain things grazing. You have certain, there's a specific way to make sure that the soil's fertile enough to, and it's not just like throw crops here, do this, right? I'm guessing that somewhere within the realm of that, especially in different ecosystems like South America, Hawaii, which might be a little similar, but if you want to touch base on some of maybe the correlations between the cultures and growing in different areas and maybe the differences that you've experienced?
Absolutely. And I see how this reflects people too. And if we think of permaculture as a way of working with the land and as a way of working within our own inner gardens, right? What's going to work for you may not work for me. What's going to work in Hawaii may not work on another island in Hawaii or on another side of the island or at a different elevation. So it's like really being so tuned into a place and similarly so tuned into ourselves to say, what is it that works for me? What is uniquely designed for my inner garden? You can plant, say, rosemary in one place and it will grow vastly different than it will in this other place 20 minutes away. It's really amazing. It's amazing that nature has such specificity to her. And you can observe it when you walk around a forest. And if you just tune into, well, why is that plant growing here and not there? Oh, it's under the shade of this giant tree. If you put it out in the sunlight, it would disintegrate.
And then the nitrogen from other plants in the soil, it's so dynamic.
Yeah, and it starts to touch into the fact that, a forest is not a conglomeration of individual trees. It is a whole system working together. Just like our organs are all working together to create this one system we call a human. And then each human is working together, hopefully with nature, to create a larger ecosystem and on and on and on out. Yeah.
No, I think that's great. And then it's there's so many layers. It's awesome too that the way your brain works. It's like we were talking about the rhizome last night, or like the vision I had when I was in the center for softness. Maybe before we jump into like some of the polarities and nuances I see between like your child immersion program and the constellation program, can you explain in like maybe a more simplistic or dynamic version to the listeners of what you do and what the basis of the family constellation work is?
So there's the how and there's the why. I'll focus on the why. The why is how can I understand what my behaviors and patterns are doing, where they come from, and how to enact what I really need in a different way. It is Mark Wolin. He's an incredible author. I believe I'm quoting this correctly. I think it's Mark Wolin or Tony Robbins, who says, it's the guy who created authentic relating. Anyway, there's a quote that said that it's this phrase that I just love: tragic expressions of unmet needs. And I feel what we're doing in constellations is reworking the expression of those needs to something hopefully less tragic and more productive and effective once we understand what the need is behind the pattern.
I think it's interesting too, because you're like, I don't think you're forcefully unveiling something to people. It's like, because they're the ones saying it or doing the action. And then I feel like there's less of a pushback from their ego because of the way it's unveiled. And then it's kind of course it's a shock, like with some of the stuff, the words, the communication, the pulling it's almost like magic. You pull the word out of your pocket and then it's like, whoa, and then it kind of sets in. It's like those multi-layers is very interesting. And it was just interesting to experience and to see the different psychological standpoints from every person.
Yeah.
Trauma.
And that touches on the how, right? It's this form of role play. And the way that I practice is I do it blind, meaning there's someone representing a person or an emotion. They have that emotion or that role written on a piece of paper. That person, and usually myself, and definitely the people in the group, nobody knows what it is that's being represented. So it gets us out of our mind. And then we all participate in this sort of intuitive experience of feeling what our relationship is to whatever that thing is that's being represented. This can happen in a few different ways. And through that process, when I feel, wow, I really have some resistance to whatever this is, and it happens to be the thing that I actually want, that's really informative. That tells a deeper story, right? And it cracks something like you're speaking to. It cracks something that creates willingness, right? When I can see within myself, wow, I really feel resistant to this thing that I actually want. The cognitive dissonance there says, oh, well, let's do something about that. Let's shift that. A rational, sane person is going to want to address that in some way or another, if and when there's willingness.
No, 100%. And the way it's unveiled too, it's like, it really is like, oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah. I need to work on that. You could see it across the board. And everybody, it's both like a love. I wouldn't say it's a hate. I'll just stick with a love and like an acceptance as a group, because everybody's going through something, even if it's not the same exact thing you're going through. So it does. There's a hyper. I guess maybe hyper's not the best word for that. There's a very fast pace connection that happens. Like you could see from the beginning, as soon as the first sequence goes through the constellation, and then you have the second. And once you get to the second word, I feel like that's when everybody starts to feel really comfortable, and it starts changing a little bit of the dynamic in there. And then, by the third, fourth one, and the meditation, everybody, it's just like, it's one of the more powerful ones I've seen for how quick it was, a couple hours. That first 30 minutes is the game changer. And then you could see how it just like unfolded for a lot of people.
Yeah. And, traditionally the way that family constellations works is that one person is receiving, and the group is supporting that one person. And so oftentimes the group will represent, say, their mother or their father or a twin that they had in the womb or something like, there's all kinds of things. And the representatives themselves will be doing the communicating with one another. And then that person receiving will step in and have some healing conversations with those people being represented. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes they're conversations that we could never have with our actual parents, or maybe our parents aren't alive anymore. Mm-hmm. And so it's very cathartic to be able to be in that space and have those conversations that have wanted, that we've wanted for sometimes decades.
Yeah. The unraveling that trauma scroll, just letting everybody read what's on there for the most part. It's huge.
Yeah. And like Mark Wolin's book, It Didn't Start With You. Mm-hmm. Such a powerful realization to realize, like, wow, I had this situation going on in my childhood. Almost always our parents had a very similar or mirroring dynamic going on, and on back and on back and on back. And there's so much empathy and compassion that can come in when I realize, wow, okay, it wasn't about me. I certainly was affected by it. However, it's this momentum that's been going on for generations. It helps put it into a context that is a little bit easier to work with, and
more a little digestible.
And more honest with what's actually happening.
Because if you live through that victim mindset and that victimhood, then apparently, like, you're going to blame your parents, you're going to blame your spouse and everybody else. But everybody's people. Like, if for most people, your parents did the best that they could if they were in your life. And that's what I remind myself too, because it's easy to become envious of this X, Y, and Z. Like, oh, I didn't have this, they didn't do this, but they're humans. And like, you could either learn and grow and adapt and create more for yourself and know who not to be, maybe, or, and take the things that they taught you that are good and then learn from the things that they that didn't work out so well as in your childhood. And I think that's a big thing.
And I see that permaculture and just nature in general really weaves with this. If you look at just the way that plants or animals evolve, they try out different things. Some things work, some things don't. Same with humans. We're trying out these different behaviors, these different ways of coping oftentimes. Some of them work, some of them don't. And we get caught up in the middle, especially as kids, in the process of evolution that our parents are in. And we enter that and go, wow, I just need a hug. This guy's reaching for a bottle of alcohol and then I can't trust him.
Yep.
I just wanted a hug, and then we find all different kinds of ways to cope with that.
Teaching kids how to talk and then telling them not to ask questions. That's like a super confusing thing. Wow. Between the Rockefeller archetype or the Rockefeller structured schools or whatever else you want to say on that, it's like we're taught to, talk and walk, and then we're told to shut up and sit down. For me, I've always been curious. Apparently, you could tell I have questions. I've always had questions, but for a long time, I wouldn't ask anymore because of the way I was treated by adults that were surrounding my parents and my parents sometimes after work and stuff. And I think it's unfortunately in America, it's a thing, like, hey, shut up, Dad just got off work. Like, oh, damn.
Absolutely. And being held within this container of conceptual frameworks, whether it's school, whether it's activities, whether it's daycare, going back to young childhood, parents trying to cope with the fact that they need to work, and then the kids are in these programs that have this set structure, which can be really helpful and can be really limiting. Mm-hmm. What I do with kids, we go out into nature, we go out into the forest, we go hike up a river, and my job is to hold presence, to be in the present moment with them. And less have I brought any ideas or intentions or plans into our days. We're usually out there for 5-6 hours of the day, and we walk up into the forest, we go up a mountain, and I hold a space of presence for them. And that's something that most humans, and especially kids, don't have. Mm-hmm. We don't have often spaces to simply be in the present moment and allow the curiosity, allow the inspiration, allow the wonderment to arise. That in itself, I've been amazed by this, but that in itself has been one of the most important and impactful aspects of these nature immersions.
And treating kids like people, like instead of just being kids. That's a huge difference. Like I
Yeah.
go to my friends' houses, I'll play with their kids, but I ask them questions. Like I talk to them more than the adults sometimes, and that's so impactful because that's what I remember as a kid. Those people, and that I honestly, I've never seen you do these immersions, but I know that you're that type of person because the way I seen you interact with their daughter. Is it Isla?
Isla, yeah.
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 And, but yeah, I don't know if we need to say her name, but they don't know who she is. But anyways, but yeah, it's that. I think it's like them being seen as people and help, like you said, helping them create a new version of themselves, like that they can actually be that superhero in their story. They're actually being the Indiana Jones or whatever that is,
Yeah. And we can put it like this. The newest car comes out. We go, wow, so advanced. The newest phone comes out. Wow, amazing. The new iteration of some AI thing, incredible. The newest human comes out and we go, wow, that's a really dumb person. We need to tell them everything about what they need to do and how they need to be and how to act and blah, 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 blah. What if we flip the script? In a lot of indigenous communities, Polynesian communities, Hawaii, for example, saw kids as the newest iteration, the ones that have access to all of the research and development that humanity has done prior to their birth. What if we flipped the script and said, wow, I wonder what this brand new person sees and how they relate to the world, given that they are the product of all of this momentum that humans and pre-humans have cultivated.
And teaching them to be individuals too, right? And like, have you ever read any of, I think it's, depending who you ask, Eckhart Tolle or Eckhart Tolle. So there's the Power of Now, and then there's a second one, the Stillness.
Stillness Speaks.
Stillness Speaks.
Yeah,
and then the third one,
A New Earth.
A New Earth. So in A New Earth, that's the orange book. So in A New Earth, it was something that blew my mind, and I was in my mid-20s, and that's what changed the dynamic of me and my parents' relationship. I started seeing them as more as people than just my parents that I needed to be this thing or I'm this thing to them. Is when he talks about like, don't raise your kid through your ego. They don't need to be the person or the thing that do all the things that you didn't do as an adult or as a kid. Like give them space to help them, but don't push them into the version of you that you wish you could have been.
Yeah.
Like give them the opportunity to become their own person. And that blew my mind. Like I had to put down the book. Probably sure I walked around the block or something like that.
Yeah.
And like that's what I think of when I think of like an immersion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember one of the kids has a parent who is totally anti-plastic. And so cleverly, and I think it speaks to your point, so cleverly, this little girl on her Christmas list wrote only plastic toys. Like her whole list was just things that were plastic. Mm-hmm. Because she said, well, my mom certainly couldn't just get nothing from my Christmas list. But her mom refused to get plastic toys. And it's this beautiful, challenging dynamic that kids are going to evolve us. And they are going to break the bounds of what we think is appropriate or makes a good person or compensates for our shortcomings, these kinds of things like you're speaking to. And I think that is so important to honor within any person, but particularly the kids, to really see that they are pioneers. And if we stop and listen to them, that there's incredible wisdom there.
Because you can be a sense of authority without having to be so restrictive.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some kids are just wild and it's hard to tame that. And some of the stallions, I get it. I was the kid with the dirt mustache and the Kool-Aid and the collar thing, like the little, so I get it. I was climbing on everything. I'm sure you might've been similar as a kid.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's part of the reason is the restriction. Like they're restricting at the wrong times, the low EQ or the 9 to 5 jobs that burn you out. You come home and it's a projection onto the kids and things like that too. But then I see good families, I see good parents, like people, and I'm like, wow, that's such a big difference. And you can see it within the children. And like, so with the immersion programs, and just something while I'm still thinking about it, I think it's interesting. So I feel like you tap kids into a form of initiation in adulthood at an early age, it sounds like, and that you're giving them a sense of purpose. But then on the other side of this, we have the ebbs and the flows, or the, like we go into the Tao, the yin yang. You're also giving adults the ability to be a child again.
Yeah. Yeah. And wow, what a relief.
So you just get to play in the recess in the middle. Is that what you've created for yourself?
Absolutely. And, I feel very strongly that we do and give the things that we need the most. And when I'm really sober about that, I'm like, wow, family constellations and learning how to be a child as an adult are so deeply impactful for me as an individual. So of course I want to do that with others. And yeah, to invite children to be held in a space of respect, like we would assume, I like to assume that children are elders, and I speak to them as if they're elders who are learning how to use a body again.
You give them the respect you wish you had as a child.
100%. And then with adults coming back to their childhood, it's almost like deconstructing the ways that they assume I will speak to them.
And then I like to give them like mental riddles or physical ones. Like, sometimes, you give them like, what would you do in this situation? And you give them the steps. So if this, and this, how does that, instead of just being like, no, you give them situational, things where they're like, oh, well, no, I don't want to do that then, and then they're creating, they understand it better, like there's just, I feel like there's a lot there.
Yeah. And I've witnessed, for example, something I do with the kids that I've also done with adults. We'll stand in a specific spot in the middle of a forest, and I'll say, okay, there's 4 kids. One goes north, south, east, and west. And I give them the opportunity to go as absolutely far into the forest as they possibly can. If they reach a point that they're scared, just go a little bit further if it's okay to do so, and bring back something epic. Bring back something cool that they found in that direction, and we make a little map. When I do this with kids, they're just blown away at the freedom that they get to have, and it's usually pretty novel for them. When I do this with adults, they're terrified typically of that freedom and of the responsibility that they all of a sudden have for their own well-being.
I noticed that even with people going to a certain position point, you could see like them searching around, and like maybe I just jumped to it too quickly, but I'm like, you need to go right there. So go there. That's the spot. But like maybe that could be my ego or whatever too. But you do see that. It's like the fear that's just like, they're like, oh no, he just gave me free range. He opened the gate. I don't know where to go.
I would say that typically children's default state is to trust themselves. And what we typically see in adults is that the default state post-conditioning is to question ourselves and to typically not trust ourselves or vehemently oppose whatever it is that we could trust within ourselves. And that's a lot to untangle.
Yeah, exactly. Or they get into the, like, what should I do? Or like, what is he thinking I should do? Or, like then you get into that entanglement of the ego.
Yeah.
What are some of the funnest experiences you've had with the immersion program?
Oh, wow.
Top 5.
Yeah.
That you could think of. Doesn't even have to be all time, But.
Yeah. I feel like it really comes down to, for me, the most fun is watching people let go. Watching, whether it's adults or children, especially, if it's children that have been bound in a city and don't have free range to play, or adults that have been bound in a desk job that have not, that don't even remember how to play. Watching people come back to life, and sort of like a plant that looks like it's dead, and all of a sudden there's this little sprout that comes out, this little green shoot that comes out, and then there's a flower, and then there's a new branch, and all of this. Watching people come back to life simply by allowing themselves and having space to just be themselves, and to go through that often really awkward process of going, I'm bored and I don't know who I am and I don't know how to be me, but I'm gonna try this. And oftentimes what I'll say is, well, have you done a cartwheel today? And most adults look at me like I have 4 heads when I say that. The cartwheel? No, I haven't done that in 20 years, man. Like,
it's funny because yesterday I always do that. From you were like, oh, okay, like coming up. So like for me, I do those every day.
Yeah, I happened to say that to you yesterday.
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah, and you're like, well, I do jujitsu. Yeah, I do cartwheels all the time. I'm like, yes, I know.
Well, jujitsu, it's animal flow, all the things. Like I'll do a lot of fun stuff. But yeah, it's just funny you say that because that's what happened. I was like, when's the last time I did a cartwheel? I used to be able to do round offs without my hands. You know.
Yeah, but most people haven't done that in decades.
Most people don't even walk anymore.
Oh my God.
They don't even go to the store.
Yeah.
They eat now this is just like off subject. You'd probably think it's funny. It's like people eating a paleo diet and they Grubhub their food home or whatever. It's like. Yeah. They Instacart it to the house. I'm like, what part of that is paleolithical? But yeah, I think we're getting into the land of the gray aliens. And that's what I try to explain to people. It's like just more primal movements, hanging, climbing, all these things. Like that's my version of fitness.
Yeah.
And the same thing with you from a spiritual realm. And that's something that for me, I'm excited to know people like you so I could tap deeper into that kind of stuff. Because I was like, immersion programs. That's what I want my nephews to do. So one of my nephews is 10, and he's the middle nephew. I have a bunch of nephews and nieces, but these are directly to my sister. And I was like, because I've read Iron John. Have you ever read Iron John? No. From Robert Bly? You'd love it. So it talks about like the missing approaches of male initiation and from childhood. So he talks about a golden ball, and that golden ball is there's like Iron John is like this wild man that lives at the bottom of a pond, and it kind of just like. It's an old story from the 1800s, and what he does is go through the story from a therapist, and he picks it apart and dissects it, and he like basically integrates what it is to be, or what is missing from modern day culture, from manhood, and how mothers treat kids like husbands, and there's just bond, dude. You'd love it. It's great.
Yeah, that hits
powerful.
home.
Yeah. So it's super powerful, and but it just made me realize like, oh. One of the reasons why I was looking at, because there was a point in my life where I was embarrassed between 17 and 21 that I didn't have a felony and I wasn't in prison because of the adults that I grew up around me. Not my dad, but my uncles and brothers and some of the other people that were surrounding me, because that's what I thought it was for my version of male initiation. Yeah. Don't think like that now. Glad I've never had a felony or any of that stuff, but it's your environment. Absolutely. And so for me, I don't want my nephews to have to go through that. I want to be able to show them other things like, Justin, like for me, Uncle Justin's been in movies, he's done all these things. You don't just have to have a 9 to 5 if you don't want to. Just be whoever you want to be. Like it's cool. It's okay. You can fuck up, but like create something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like you're speaking to just allowing humans to have a blank canvas to paint what they want to paint.
Yeah.
Uniquely.
Well, like one of my older nephews, he likes video games. I don't play video games, but I'll look at them enough so I understand where I have talking points for him. Oh, Fortnite? He's like, oh yeah, I got this and this. I'm like, oh cool. He's introverted. He has autism. Like it's a thing. It's fine. But that's him. What are you into? He's like, I want to get into podcasting or videography or something. Cool. We'll send you out a video camera and get you making content. But it's like finding things to support them instead of being like, no, you need this baseball glove. You need to do MMA. You need to do jujitsu.
Right. And imagine trying to do that to an adult.
Yeah.
Right? Like trying to say, actually, this is what you need. That doesn't work. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work.
And then I make sure to ask his dad too. So it's both of our ideas.
Sure.
You know, so hey, can I do this? Instead of just sending it out. Because before I would do that, and then you're going against the grain of the family and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I run into that a lot in the
I'm
immersions.
sure.
Is like kids are getting a totally different experience, and they go home and they're realizing this is deep medicine, but they go home and they realize the dysfunction at home. And they're having to grapple with that. And I use the constellations and NLP to work with the kids and say, okay, this is what your parents are experiencing. Or, I ask, I try not to tell, but asking and eliciting the understanding within them of what their parents are moving through and why their parents are trying so hard to achieve a certain outcome through their own child's lives. And I think, again, every behavior has a positive intention. Every parent has a positive intention in that they want to see their children succeed. They want to see the future generations be perhaps better than they were in some way or another, or achieve the dreams that they as individuals had. The problem being that your child may not share that same dream, and that's okay.
And they don't have the time or the tools to be capable for most of it. Unfortunately, most people that are successful, they bought everything back but their freedom.
Yeah.
And then they have awesome individuals like yourself, or I guess, myself too, when it comes to like kids jiu-jitsu and things like that between me and my coach. And that's what it's about, like it's just being able to be one step ahead of this weird crumbling culture and getting people back into the wild. Cause that's my goal, opening, like having a farm. I want to, I would love to, that's the goal. Goal is in the next, before, like I'll be 37. And just like within the next few years is to have my own farm to kind of get out of the matrix even further.
Yeah.
But like teaching kids and stuff like that, it's so powerful.
It is. And, I've looked at the people who have success and envied that sometimes, because the way that I've lived my life was to, at first, honestly, just reject that whole system and say, no, not going to participate. And that comes with its costs too. I've traveled the world and been on 5 continents and had deep, meaningful experiences there. And I haven't experienced some of the things that those who have perhaps financial success or, success within the matrix, they have had a very unique experience that's also incredibly powerful and incredibly important to hold in this very real world that we're living in, Yeah. So I think it's an amalgamation of both, and us coming together and being able to swap stories just like any two tribes would. Yeah.
It's like my dad, he'll say, well, I'm not a millionaire. I'm like, Dad, you retired in your 50s. I have billionaire friends that are telling me, man, your dad's living the life, because they're trapped and they're not happy. Yeah. Or some of them are happy, but they fantasize about being on a porch looking at 50 chickens and going to feed them. Like there's different levels of success, and everybody's always looking at everybody else's pasture.
And I'll share something from my time in Bali, where oftentimes from the West, we look at these multi-generational families and these deep traditional cultures with like awe and wonder in our eyes, right? And I think that that's very important. And getting to know people who are present day living in those systems. There was a young man, he was in his early 20s, and he was the firstborn of his family. The firstborn male of the family's responsibility is to tend all of the family land, all the family houses. That's his role in life. And it's decided for him whether he likes it or not. And he looked at me with eyes of awe and wonder, and actually some anger, because I represented something that he would never be able to have, which was a total individual expression. I looked at his life and said, wow, to have the support and the camaraderie of family and that sort of close-knit community and having land that you're born with, those kinds of things, to me, I looked at with awe and wonder and a certain amount of envy. And so just seeing that, I think it really takes both. Both have their merits and both have their limitations.
100%.
Yeah.
It really does. And then it reminds me of, have you read The Alchemist?
Oh my God. Yeah. Why do you think I booked my first flight to New Zealand?
I was looking at that book on my shelf and I'm like, no, because I know it's going to happen. And that's where I'm like, I'm going to go here and here, here. In 2020, I almost ended up moving to Cairo. I was going to put all my stuff in storage. There's been multiple times in my life where I almost put my stuff in storage and just, But, in perfect timing, like with this and everything else, it's not as tangible right now. But in the future, I would love to live in a different country for a year or something. But I was going to be out there and it's going to be an MMA CrossFit and like a strike coach and CrossFit coach. I was going to be their head coach out there in Cairo. I was like, that'd be cool for Egypt. And then COVID happened. I was like, oh, thanks. I did not. I had something telling me not to go, and I didn't book. I had it up, booked it, and I ended up canceling it. And then a couple weeks later, that's how I ended up down in southern Utah helping out with that self-sustainable farm, and it was like right outside of Cedar City.
You're reminding me of something. A dear friend, Stephen Brooks, he's an incredible permaculturist and ethnobotanist. And on the farm down in Costa Rica, we had an expression called permaculture, and that was our gym, which was the garden. And you work in the garden and you're getting ripped, honestly. And so I'd love to see some more gyms centered around growing food and utilizing the body to actually do things that are maybe a little bit more productive in picking things up and putting things down. And I know things like MMA are really powerful in that way. I mean, you're actually generating, you're actually healthy, and you're generating skills and these kinds of things.
Yeah, that's the way I train, is like I have to make sure you're hitting everything. Because if I can deadlift 600 pounds, but I can't pick up a baby at an angle without throwing out my back, you got a problem.
Totally.
So I tell people, it's like, train like water, like Bruce Lee says. Like, then you can be the tidal wave, or you can be a trickling stream.
Yeah.
Like, I can go into the splits without a warm up. And like, I'm not going to blow out my hamstring. If I have to dead sprint right now to go save a lady across the street, I'm not going to hurt myself. And not everybody has to do that. Not everybody needs a 68-inch box jump or whatever the hell, like it's an anime character. But there are things that, like, you could build all the muscle you want, but it's inside a gym fit. And that's doesn't make sense for life. And then for me, I come from a construction background, things like that. And I had to do that all day. So I love that.
Yeah.
That firm culture is a real thing. That's what it should be.
Totally.
But I mean, teach your own. Bodybuilders are cool too. It's a form of art.
Totally.
Like, we need all of it.
Yeah. I'm curious if there's, on this topic of family constellations and all these different things and the childhood and all of that, are there things that you see within those are realms that I haven't spent much time in the CrossFit and MMA and all this kind of stuff? What do you see is lacking or needing or missing in those spaces that would be supportive or helpful to people?
Vulnerability. There's a lot of bravado. A lot of, not everywhere across the board. Usually there's a couple of them. They're really awesome, and everybody's awesome in their own route. But there's fighters, there's martial arts difference. And in between the fighting and martial arts, there's also, just like anywhere else, like, you have the people that sit on the outskirts, or you have the people that are in the center. There's like that whole opening their heart chakra, or whatever you want to call that. The vulnerability, being the warrior in the garden rather than the gardener in the war. So even with fighters and MMA and stuff like that, there's a lot of people that are always trying to prove something to themselves, to other people. There's a lot of bickering, a lot of it just across CrossFit, everything else too. There's a lot of cliques. So if you don't check certain boxes or do these things, and I provoke that in some people sometimes too. Like, I come in, I'm decently confident, I'm pretty depending what room I'm in, pretty and super athletic. Like, I gravitate towards things fast. So I see the worst side of people sometimes because of that. And I would think there's a sense of vulnerability that is needed across the board when it comes to men and women.
Yeah.
And when it comes to fitness and those things, because everybody's, it's the same thing as the circle. It's their most insecure moments, because you're in a fight or flight, you're fighting for your life, but then there's old man jujitsu where people are just there to practice. But then you got the blue belt or the white belt, which is the beginning stages, that are fierce and smash people or trying to smash people. And then you got the purple and the brown belt that are trying to go back to their office, or a doctor, and that's why they're sometimes the more intellectual introverts and people don't end up in jiu-jitsu or the gym or this or that or the other. They go to private gyms and things like that. It's because I think it's the same thing across the board for humans. I just don't think there's a good blending of culture sometimes.
Yeah. And it's fascinating, the more that we build ourselves up physically, it's kind of like putting on armor, right? And oftentimes I notice that is attempting to protect something very vulnerable that lives within every single one of us.
Dude, I'll send you the podcast. You almost said it word for word. I did this podcast that my friend Emilio and Rachel set me up with, and he does this it basically says it's from God, but he does these these little work. It's like a workshop inside the podcast, and he runs you through these scenarios from your childhood and this, that, and the other. And that's what I told him. I was like, I had a 4-year-old that was crying. The only thing I knew how to do, and the only thing I seen around me, was to become the biggest, roughest, toughest motherfucker I could, And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
And it eventually backfires, or you fall off the hill. Like Louis earlier, he was in here right before you met him. And same thing, you go into a dark spot. Yeah. You keep building all these things externally, and then the internal part of you slips out from under you. And next thing you know, you're in a bad spot, or you do bad things, or whatever that may be, bad things, like quote unquote, like there's a slip up.
And you can see that the positive intention is protection or safety, right? And the way we're going about it, just like you said, at some point it crumbles, right? It works for a while. It works given certain circumstances, typically in our childhood. And then by the time we get to be an adult and the scene changes, it's far less effective.
Yeah, I think the smaller the gym is, depending on jiu-jitsu, MMA is a little different sometimes. It could be cliquey, or people go there. Most people there are troubled in one way or another, and that's okay. I love all of them, but I would say like big gyms are one way, and then as the gyms get smaller, it's more of a community, like CrossFit gyms, things like that. But yeah, like public gyms, it's like almost like a bar in essence. Yeah. Like, so people go there for dopamine. People go there to be seen, to not be seen, to do their own thing. So you have a blend of everybody. Same with a festival. Sometimes people are going there for enlightenment. Some people are going there to worship goddesses, or whatever
or to party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the term. Like if you heard that, one of my buddies said it. It was pretty funny. It's like it went from fucking bitches and getting money to worshiping goddesses and finding abundance. Yeah. Like it's the same fucking shit.
Nailed
it. I'm laughing because I'm like, it's true. You have the same archetype. The reason archetypes are real is because they're across cultures.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I would say vulnerability and having more people, maybe like not to toot myself or other people that could look big and scary, but then once you talk to them, I have no problem helping anybody out with a movement pattern or things. Things I do have a problem with are douchey motherfuckers or very stuck up people that are taking equipment and thinking it. I was like, just because you pee on the fire hydrant doesn't mean you own it.
Right.
This is a public gym. This isn't Paulie fucking, bipolar biceps trying to go over here because he took too much artificial testosterone and he's just snorted 300 milligrams of caffeine up his nose, type of deal. And that happens too. It's just like that, I wish there was more respect and empathy in gyms, but it's not like that everywhere. They're like private gyms, CrossFit gyms, things like that. They're more of a community. They'll go pick up your kids from school. They'll ask you how your grandma's doing. But in public gyms, it's the same thing. It's like being in traffic sometimes. It's totally. Like it's their most insecure realm or it's their most superficial secure realm. Not everybody can just lean into the music. Everybody's listening to different things. They have different priorities. So I'm not sure if that answered things.
Oh yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah. And I think that just demonstrates a lot of the ways that we attempt to get the things that we really do need, and we go about it in ways that are open to refinement.
And same thing. Like somebody will sit there, you could see them like almost pouting or upset, and then sometimes they'll just be like, "Hey, do you want to work in? Do you need this? I could do one less set. Like your time's just as valuable as mine, but you got to use your words. I can't read your mind, but your body language is saying you're not okay." Mm-hmm. So moving forward, it's just like same thing, be vulnerable, like open up. Mm-hmm. We can't help you if you don't tell us.
Right. Yeah. I know that experience through and through.
Yeah. 100%. So where do you think you're going to be going with these ventures, or what's the end goal, or what's the goal in the next few years? Like it doesn't even have to be the macroest of macro cosmic goals in your end goal right now, but where do you see what's next? What are some of the skills you're going to be leaning into? What are some of the new programs you're going to be doing?
Yeah, I really feel that family constellations is so vitally important for the growth of humanity. And it's a way. There's many, many different ways, but it's a way to really effectively and clearly transcend the ways that we as humans within our individuality, say what you will about spirituality, we're still here being humans. We still have interpersonal dynamics, that surprises a lot of people who are trying to still escape it, right? So what I'm really focused on right now is helping people see, and myself included, that every behavior has a positive intention behind it, and getting clear on what it is that we're trying to get and refining how we go about and get that. And that happens through these spaces, whether it's in retreats, whether it's, day workshops or weekend events, or going out into nature and doing these, multi-layered immersions and excursions. I just want to help people see the wisdom within themselves and how what's the word? How vehemently each of us has tried to love ourselves and once we really see that the worst of the worst of the worst of our behaviors, so to speak, are the most extreme forms of attempting to get ourselves something good, man, the way that melts myself and the way that I see it melts others and brings us into that state of vulnerability and mutual empathy. My God, I mean, for me, I just would love to see that in the world.
Your greatest and brightest success is always just behind the shadow of fear, you know.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if I cultivated that. I don't know. I say it a decent amount, but it is true. You don't have to stay in the darkness. You choose to, unfortunately, with a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. Some people just have they signed up for some weird soul contracts, and there are some heavy ones.
I think I was one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, or you got the kids that are born. Your level 10's your level 10. My level 10's the same way. I realize now, and it's funny too, because my friend Felicia said that on our podcast that this could be a coping mechanism. But sometimes I reassure myself, which is coping. I signed up for this life so somebody else didn't have to, because somebody would have done something to themselves a long time ago because of the trials and tribulations and yada, yada, yada. But then you have the kids that are born with these weird bone-breaking diseases, and their skin's paper thin, and they're the happiest kids in the world. And you're like, but always in pain.
And I think what I would love to see is spaces cultivated for both adults, whether those adults are parents or whether they're adults without children, spaces for adults and children to come together and have meaningful healing experiences, and spaces that can hold community in these ways to address the child within the adult and the adult within the child and vice versa. And to really, I see myself having a role in supporting some of the ways that we go about some of that healing over the course
I think
of
that's
time.
great. I see it for you too. I see a bright future for you across all those realms, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're going to be the constellation guru here soon.
I would love to see, I used to think, and I still kind of think that the whole world would benefit if every person took even just a microdose of psilocybin. Mm-hmm. I feel that the whole world will also benefit substantially if every person just participated in a family constellation.
100%.
They're so common in Europe. They're starting to become known across the US. It's still considered a pseudoscience. It's not a, insurable therapy yet, but we're on the way to opening the door to these things and to understanding that there are deeper layers than we can measure.
And there's not just one topographical map, there's not one path to the mountaintop. There's many. So people need different forms, exactly, that there'd be a long line of people,
Yeah, that'd be a busy trail.
Yeah, busy trail. Yeah. And then that's just it, is like having people like yourself that are able to be on the forefront of ventures to be able to create these circles across the United States. So other than Utah, where are you headed to next?
Next, I'm doing Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and then Boulder, Colorado.
And then what's after Boulder?
After Boulder is a lot of opportunities that I don't know. It's not set in stone yet.
Awesome.
We'll be doing a retreat in Mexico in the winter, probably late November. We're solidifying dates on that. And just continuing to open the box to more opportunities to share this in meaningful spaces.
I want to see if my buddies are still in Texas, but I would love to get you connected with the 0 Point guys and girls and see if we can get you out there. They would love it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool too. They're Tyler, Texas. I think they're still in, but in that area sometime if it lines up.
Amazing. Every system, whether it's a business, a church, a family, a conscious community, all of these systems are always reaching points that require support and refinement, whether it's on the individual level or the collective group level. And that's what this work is really great for, whether it's myself or another incredible person doing this work.
Yeah. So I would love for you to get hooked up with this gentleman here. And then just DM me, or we'll put everything in the show notes that you can get hold of him. I'll let him go over things as well. But I just want to make sure that more people understand what this is or reach out, because it was a powerful experience for myself. So in closing, what are 3 things that you would like to say to the guests that have helped you, 3 skills, tools, or whatever necessary do you think that people are going to It's going to help them get through the this modern day rubble. And then you can look right into that camera here and then just speak directly to the audience.
Okay. For sure, number one, every pattern, belief, behavior that exists within you has a positive intention behind it. The wisdom is within you, even if you can't see it, even if it doesn't seem like it's there, it is there. Go play and do some cartwheels.
Work on your handstands.
Yeah, I think that's just it, right? It's like, and I see with kids, some kids do cartwheels to perform and do it correctly, and some do it just for play. And like, that's the kind of cartwheel I'm talking about. Like, do cartwheels for play. Do what you're doing, realizing we're all kids on the playground. That's actually the number 3 one is we're all kids playing on a playground, and that playground's called Earth.
100%.
Enjoy it.
That's something I do say. And I think we lost, we gained anxiety when we lost recess. In between elementary school into middle school, you lose recess. And that's when your hormones start kicking in, and that's when your life starts changing. Things get a lot heavier. Eventually you have to pay taxes. All that comes into forefront. And that's what, for me, I take inspiration from somebody like yourself to get back into the woods. Like I did the last few years, I said I turned into an inside dog. You know, I'm just a wild dog that's been sitting inside looking out the window and wondering why. But I have thumbs so I can open the door, but I don't realize it. You know, I'm like, damn. It's like the problem with the 90-degree theory. You know that one? No. So people that are stuck in 90-degree angles and they can't see the horizon, they're more likely to have depression and anxiety.
Makes good sense.
They're trapped.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our little squared box of emotion here.
The ticky-tacky boxes.
The ticky-tacky box. The ticky-tacky box. Please, a couple of minutes, go over your book here.
Okay. Being and Meing, the Sideless Coin. This came to me, I would say. I think I learned as I was writing it. And basically what this does, we spoke to it at the beginning. This book is a journey from the beginning to the end of unraveling what we believe ourselves to be, getting back to the essence. And I had an experience of this that I can share in a moment. Coming back to the essence of who and what we are as what I just say, we are life. I think we can all agree we're all alive. I am what life is. Starting from that foundation and then rebuilding our sense of individuality from that standpoint. So one way that it's posed in the book, you've got the actor and you've got the character, right? We can all understand that the character does not exist without the actor, right? That makes good sense. What we typically try to do is use our human identity as the character to find the actor within us. And what all this is saying is, wait, just tune into the actor, the life that you are, and let that inform the character. It's way more fun.
100%. I live by that model. I try to. I need to get back into it deeper. Like Joe Rogan says, if you were in a movie and you had a camera on you all the time, who would you be? What would you be doing?
Right.
Where can they find your book?
You can find it on my website, zeffield.com.
Okay.
ZEFFIELD.com.
Where else can they find you? You could look right into the camera, social medias, or whatever you have.
Both of my books are available on Amazon and all major distributors. You can find me on Instagram, mt.zeff. And more importantly, you can find me in the present moment. That's really where I love to be. Yeah, that's my favorite place to be. Yeah, just right here, right now.
And then what immersion programs do you have going on, and how can somebody, is it just through your website, or where can they find or like be able to reach you on that level to like find more information?
Yeah, it's still pretty grassroots. So I do a lot through my website, and in terms of the nature immersion programs in Hawaii, I have a group called the LICO Youth Initiative, and that's where you can find the childhood programs out in Hawaii. Otherwise, a lot of this is found through the retreat centers and the communities and the farms and the festivals that I work with. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in, brother.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you so
it.
much.
Dude, you're awesome. You're well spoken. It was
Likewise.
such a privilege to run into you, and it was divine timing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
man.
of course, brother. Thanks for making time, man. I know you're flying out soon in a couple days. Once again, thank you for listening. This is Just in Our Minds. Have a wonderful day, everybody.